I think the encouraging thing for Raptor fans to know is that, like, from basically the end of last season, I thought he really took his game up to another level from March onward, basically. He played 21 games the rest of the season from March. He averaged 26.5 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 5.6 assists, shot 52% from the field, got to the free throw line 6 times a game. And those are basically his averages, exact averages right now on the season. So it does feel like a bit of a continuation of the way he finished last year, but it's also, he's worked really hard in the offseason. And I think that more than anything else, that confidence and that self-assuredness that you're describing there, I think that's the impression you get from someone who has worked really, really hard in their game. And I think that for himself, he wants to set that goal for himself really high and get into essentially, maybe not top 5, but essentially like first team All-NBA kind of discussions. And Howard, I mean, as someone who has to decide on these things, and obviously this is months away, so we'll bug you later down the line as well. But can you maybe describe or even carve out a potential road path to how this would sort of be achieved? Because it is admittedly an extremely lofty aspiration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a couple different ways to talk about it. Because if we're talking about literally all NBA, then it's okay. Are you going to finish the season as one of the 2 best forwards in the league? Because the ballot is still structured as 2 forwards, 2 guards in the center, and so now you're having to beat out you know Giannis and Kevin Durant, and I got to think of who else is like. LeBron will be back in the discussion again, of course, if he stays healthy. Um, you know, there's going to be the usual logjam of players. If we're talking more broadly about like, I want to be a top 5 player in the NBA. I want to be talked about in MVP discussions, and that's kind of how we really rank top 5, right? Like the top 5 in any given season, not so much all NBA because that's by position. It's really the MVP voting. Well, look at who the MVPs have been and who ends up high on the ballot year in and year out. Those are always going to be players who, and almost always, there's some exceptions, almost always going to be one of the top scorers in the league, top 5, 10 at the least, probably. I haven't run the numbers to know exactly, but you're going to be one of the best scorers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a guy who's viewed as a go-to player in crunch time,
Mm-hmm.
a guy who can, put the team on his back and, carry them at times of need, a quarter, a game, a week, a month, whatever. You are the clear go-to guy on your team. You're the guy that the team orbits around. If we're talking MVP discussion, definitely most of the time, some exceptions, you're going to be a 50-plus win team. You're going to be a team that looks like it's got a plausible path to title contention. You're going to be a guy who's viewed as somebody who creates a lot of scoring for himself and for his teammates. Defense is a plus, but not always required. Steph Curry comes to mind in his back-to-back years as MVP, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki.
Jokic.
But in general, like the things I just listed, those are the kind of the unspoken prerequisites to be the MVP discussion, and by extrapolation, the top 5, top 10 type player discussion. So the question becomes, can Pascal Siakam at age 28 make the kind of leap to be in that kind of conversation, to be that kind of player? And I was thinking about this before we came on, and like, it's pretty rare for a player to make a leap from star, which Pascal Siakam has been, to superstar, which is what we're talking about when we talk about MVPs and top 5 players. It's rare to make that leap at this age, although I mentioned Steve Nash a minute ago. Steve Nash did.
Right.
Nash was a guy who made like two all-star teams in Dallas, was viewed as a really good player, but not a superstar, not a future Hall of Famer necessarily, not a go-to guy, not a guy who you build your entire universe around. And he also is the exception to the rule in the scoring part of it, of course. But then Nash goes to Phoenix, and we know everything else that happened there, and he wins, a couple of MVPs. So it's rare to make the leap at 28, I think. No other examples came to mind immediately, but that's the leap that Siakam would be trying to make to get to that goal.